Hey everybody, welcome to what would be the, I guess we're at the second, last year was the inaugural, now we've got the second Game of the Year awards for COGconnected, and if you joined us last year, you'll know who I am, Shawn. I'm the executive editor for the site. We've got Trevor on my left, you're right.
Hello, hello.
We got Paul Sullivan.
What's up?
Another old face, and we've got a new addition, the newest member to the team, the loudest, the most boisterous, possibly the most annoying, but we like him anyway. Rory Wood joining us as well.
What's up, guys? Very excited to be here.
Yeah, it was a big year. It was a really big year, actually. So we have a ton to go through this year. Like, I cannot believe, just looking at the list of games for every category, how many good games, how many shitty games, how many games in general came out this year. It was big. A big, big year. I guess we don't really want to waste any time. We want to keep people interested. So should we just jump into the first award?
We can jump in. I was going to say, onto your note, though, of just like there being so many games this year, it kind of became a year for me personally where it was just like a blur of a year.
Like, you know? Too many games?
Yeah, in a way. And a lot of great games where there wasn't really that one game where I was like, this is the game of 2000. I mean, ultimately, we're going to have a pick for the end of the year. We all will. We'll argue over that.
We'll get there. And I mean, I think people, if they're going to enjoy our categories. I think that's one of the things that we're happiest about. We have some pretty quirky categories. We don't like to keep it boring. And at the end, we're going to do a few different episodes. At the end, we are going to come to our best of the year. We're going to come to our consensus. But for our regular awards, we're going to discuss, and everyone's going to give their own unique pick about what they think wins any individual award. Our first award this year, we're going to go with our Prettiest Pony, which is our best visuals.
I feel like there should be a sound effect.
A sound effect there? We'll get so that's our best visuals / art, so games that are stylish. And we've got a pretty solid list of nominees. So let's go through those real quick, and then we'll jump into it. Doom, Uncharted 4, The Last Guardian, Final Fantasy 15, Ratchet & Clank, Gears of War 4, Inside, The Witness, Seasons After Fall, Battlefield 1, Hyper Light Drifter, Titanfall 2, Dishonored 2, Forza Horizon 3, Quantum Break, Owlboy, and Firewatch. AAA, we got some indie love in there. Why don't we throw it over to the newest addition to the team here for his pick.
Is that you?
No, that's not me.
His pick for the Prettiest Pony.
All right, guys. Well, I know you've been chomping at the bit with anticipation here. But it was a tough one for me, actually, Prettiest Pony, because I always battle in my mind. Do I go for what's reaching for photorealism, like the Forza games and, Uncharted and things like that? Or do I go for the more artistic sort of style thing? And this year, I'm going to lean towards more artistic. I think Uncharted is a beautiful game, but it's mimicking reality, and I don't know, there wasn't a ton of like artistic sort of stuff where I was just like, I haven't seen that before, and it's gorgeous on different levels than realism. So I have been battling between The Witness and Inside, and it's so tough. I have Inside circled though. I was gonna say The Witness because it's so vibrant and such.
I thought for sure you'd lock in Witness.
I really thought I was going to as well, but I'm gonna go with Inside. I replayed it again leading up to this over the past couple days to get the last little achievements in there, and like, the color tone, yes, it's muted, but the atmosphere is above most other games out there this year, and the animations are probably the best animations I've seen in a game in I don't even know how long. Like, it's meticulous, Even great games with great animations, you can often find a scene between transitions when they're doing one action to another, and Inside, you don't see that. It's seamless. Doesn't matter where you grab the object. He's got different animations for it. I was first blown away when I first started taking control of the drone sort of guys that you do. And I had to jump from a big gap, and they like caught me, and I stumbled through their arms onto the ground and continued. And at that point I just went, this is something else.
It's a solid choice. I think it's a really good choice.
It's my choice, and it's the right choice. Inside is my pick for Prettiest Pony this year.
Paul? Prettiest Pony?
I would echo Rory in a lot of ways on Inside. I thought the level of detail in that game was off the charts. Just the depth of the environments. There were things going on in so many layers, front to back. It's a 2D game, but there's so much going on in that third dimension in terms of little touches that they put in there. And like you said, the animation is off the charts good, especially at the end when I guess spoiler warning, if you have not played Inside, you should...
Big spoiler warning.
You should go play it first before this. At the end, when you're... The blob, and you know it's rolling over, and the legs are coming out, and they're stepping down and picking up in such a unique way. It's an amazing looking game.
Oh, it's incredible.
So, and I thought the environment too was really emotionally resonant.
Totally. It's
watching the automatons, walk through this environment, it really affected me and stuck with me for quite a while. So for that reason, I also pick Inside as the prettiest pony.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? I mean,
2 for 2.
I like the fact that we've got 2 that are going towards an independent game too, because everybody always expects that you're going to go for the AAA with, like you said, the most photorealistic or something along those lines. So I like both those two.
I'd like to throw something out just for my second pick, which was really close second, and that's Firewatch. That game is just gorgeous in
really
motion,
is.
the way the palettes shift and so on. That was a very, very close second.
Trev.
Well, they're wrong.
Oh,
for me, it was an easy
Call
pick.
of Duty is not a nominee.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's coming later. There's a best of, right? For me, it's not even close. It's Uncharted 4. I mean, it's one of the rare games where I would just stop. I would climb a cathedral or a mountain. I would stop. I would look around and just be completely blown away. I thought the detail, the color, everything. It's the prettiest pony of 2016. I mean, it's one of those games where I'd yell at the wife, "What, honey, get in here! You got to look at this! Like, it's amazing!" And of course, she'd be like,
not caring.
"Yeah, like not care at all." Like I'd be like, "Okay, that was a waste of time." But it's really the Uncharted is the opposite of me. It's gorgeous and pretty and just an amazing looking game. I think it's the best looking game of 2016.
And according to our staff, because we pulled all our nominations from our staff members, most of them think that the Prettiest Pony should go to Uncharted 4. For myself, I'm going to give this more of a special mention. Ratchet and Clank looks ridiculous. I do have the ability to be playing it on a PS4 Pro, so you get that HDR effect as well in the 4K. It looks insane. It looks really, really good. But like you said, I think you pointed it out well. It's not necessarily always about how pretty it is, as opposed to how much style is involved. And you guys are going to laugh too, because I also went with Inside.
Yes!
Yeah.
The right answer!
Yeah,
That is the correct answer.
Art style trumps particles and all that.
It's not only art style. I mean, I found it was everything. It's the subtle uses of color. When color is used, it's used appropriately. It's used to gather your attention.
It was almost Schindler's List in a way,
and you guys covered it well. Just the amount of depth and the realism to the movement, like you said too, like with the blob at the end, it was something that. And I mean, I'm at this point now, like you were mentioning, there's so many games coming out. It takes a really special game to gather my attention and keep it where I'm like, I need to turn that one back on, as opposed to tackling the 30 in my backlog, right? And that one kept my attention start to finish. Absolutely loved it. So looks like he's wrong.
I mean, how often do you find a game where the visuals themselves are what is driving you forward to want to find out what's going on in this world? Why are there pigs with weird parasites in them, and why are there?
Well, it's funny that you say that, and we'll save it for a bit later. But I'll definitely be touching on those aspects when we get to Storyteller.
Ooh,
all right. So let's move on. We can move on to our second award, and we're going to cover 4 awards in this episode. Our second award is for the feels, the best moment or sequence, something that makes you the gut punch. It hurts you. So we got a good list of nominees here as well. Doom, the opening. I guess just firing Doom up after such a long time.
I mean, it starts at 11, right? It's one of those games that it's revving hard and that's it. It doesn't let go.
Uncharted 4, Thief's End, when Nate meets Sam. Unravel, basically start to finish. Firewatch, opening sequence. Inside, the last 20 minutes. Firewatch, I'm not in my tower. I loved that. World of Final Fantasy, Titus last at the Easter egg. Uncharted 4 again, when Nate plays Crash. That Dragon Cancer, that's a start to finish too. That's a start to finish. Inside, the Shockwave Room, and inside, the Marching Automatons. So Inside's getting a lot of love here too. There's 3 separate mentions of 3 different moments with Inside. So why don't you start off, Paul, with your the Feels Award for 2016?
Well, I had a few that I thought were standouts. Obviously, Inside, most of the game was pretty standout. But the Shockwave room, when you're, having to hide behind things, and the sound design of the shockwave coming towards you, and the way that made you feel on the inside, that was pretty
on the
feely.
inside. Yeah, I see what you're doing there.
But 2 kind of stood above that for me, and one of those was the Firewatch opening. Which was completely text-based, and it set up Henry's character in such a way that it set the stage very nicely for who he was and why he was going on this journey in terms of his personal backstory. If you haven't played it, you should definitely play it. It's quite an emotional sequence. For having just fired it up, to have that kind of emotional response was pretty impressive.
And just from the text.
Just
right?
from text.
Yeah.
And, the music and whatnot. But above that, I thought was the Doom opening, because that is just fucking badass. I mean, you start the game and there's this complete reverence for the Doom guy and the Doom suit. There's like candles around all this, but then you're obviously starting, like you said, at 11, and you're just hammering through this level and punching heads off and so much gore. But the best part of that opening level is when you get in the elevator at the end and he just smashes the elevator button. And then, in perfect time with the music, he cocks the shotgun, and the doors open into the second part of the level. It was amazing.
And that's like
the
that,
Doom
that,
opening.
that feeling of, holy shit, Doom's back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this game didn't suck. I can't believe it. So Doom opening is the best feels of 2016.
Good call. Trev.
This one, I'm going to try not to cry just talking about this game.
No.
I know, I'm going to be the downer. Like, this is going to... So I'm watching the Game Awards, and I'm doing stuff. I'm not really paying attention. I'm paying attention. I'm not paying attention. And this guy's on stage, and he's talking about his game and talking about how his son died of cancer, and he's crying. And I'm like, "What is this all about?" And that draw my attention to that Dragon Cancer. And there's this part in the game where the parents are talking about, their son and the different options they need to go through, and it is gut-wrenching. Like, it is, and it's the story of these parents and what they had to go through when their 12-month-old son was diagnosed with cancer, and he managed to hold on for he died in 2014. So anyway, this game, the point I'm getting at is this game's really all about what the parents were going through. And I mean, there's gameplay-wise, there's nothing really fantastic about it. It's more of a story, but it's gut-wrenching, and for me, it's the Feels Award for 2016. It was just a difficult game to make it through without crying.
Yeah, I'd back you up on that too, because I mean, apart from a lot of these moments that that are listed off here, there's some nostalgia involved. Like with Nate playing Crash Bandicoot. I mean, you might that's more of a nostalgia kick, and not so much a kick to the gut. You know what I mean? And that's why I went with that Dragon Cancer as well, because there's real emotion tied to that story. There's a real person tied to that story. So, I mean, unless you have no feelings at all, it's impossible to get through that from start to finish without getting that absolute kick to your gut.
And everybody knows somebody that's been touched by cancer, so it's hard. Like, you relate to it instantly.
I think anybody would relate to it.
And your heart just breaks for these parents and what they're going through, and it's tough to get through, but I highly recommend.
Well, I mean,
playing
I think anybody who has kids too, a parent is never supposed to see their kid go. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I know that even when I think about, if I ever think about my kids going before me, I get choked. I can't do it. I can't handle it.
That's why Bruce was so lucky in the Batman origins. I got that out of the way.
We got it out of the way. We're nice and early. So, yeah. So, we don't want to end here on too much of a downer. So, we've got 2 votes for that Dragon Cancer, and then we're going to hand it over to you, Rory.
I feel like I would probably side with you guys if I had played it. I didn't even know this was a thing until people started talking about it after the awards and such, and then I looked into it and was like, yeah, it's something I want to check out. I'm totally into like strong narratives and emotional stuff. But I can't choose it because I didn't play it, so it didn't really have any effect on me yet, and I'm going to go with Unravel, actually. Inside had all these moments where, like, I was feeling stuff, but I didn't really know what I was feeling either with Inside, because
Yeah.
like you're piecing the puzzle together.
You're trying to figure it out.
Exactly, and that's why I love that game. But Unravel, like, it presented just enough of a story through its photographs of past that you could piece together the puzzle yourself of what sort of like happened with his family and the land around them and what was going on, and still left a few threads for you to kind of put together yourself and interpret yourself. And ultimately, like, it was I probably got the most emotional kind of feels from that, and I think the score itself had a lot to do with that as well. It was just super like melancholy and lots of violins and things like that, and I don't know, it had an effect on me. Sometimes it's hard to explain and define like what it was about a particular game that made you feel what you felt.
I think if anybody who's watching played Unravel, they would get exactly what you're saying, because I played it and I actually reviewed it for the site, and it was another game that just spoke to me from start to finish.
Yeah, I really liked it. I think it reviewed well too. But I still find that like now that it's the end of the year, it was a little underappreciated throughout the year, right? Like it kind of came and went, and it's a small game amongst a sea of huge
And
titles.
sometimes it's really hard when you're handing out Game of the Year awards at the end of the year. People lose track of those games that came out January, February, March, the beginning of the year.
I think it turned out really well, especially after you saw him at E3 announce the game, right? The creator, Martin Salin, I think his name is, and just how passionate and nervous he was, though, too. And then the product turned out, I thought, pretty exceptionally overall. So that's my pick anyway.
I think it's Coldwood Entertainment, I think, is the developer. Yeah. And, I did attempt to use a little bit of, I own a website and I reviewed it really well. Can you send me a Yarny? And I never got a Yarny.
Oh, see, I didn't. I didn't say anything, and they ended up sending me a Yarny.
All right, so we're moving on to the third award of the show, and that is the King of First Party, our best exclusive game, any platform, and another crazy list of nominees: Forza Horizon 3, Uncharted 4. Dead Rising 4, Civ 6. God, a lot of people were excited about that game. Last Guardian, World of Final Fantasy, Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE, Bravely Second.
FE.
Oh, hashtag. Do you say did people actually say hashtag?
They do.
That's awful.
They do. It's weird.
Ridiculous. Zero Escape, Zero Time Dilemma, Gears of War 4, Pokemon Sun Moon. It's a pretty solid list. I haven't gone first yet, so I want to go first this time.
Do it.
Yeah. Because I don't
wrong.
want any of you guys to influence my choice.
Okay, because that's what we've been doing up till now, right?
Up till now, because I can't think for myself. No, you know what? I am going to go with Uncharted 4. There were a lot of great exclusives this year. I always find that this one is kind of tough. But Uncharted 4 was one of those games that I got into it, and again, it's rare. I mean, whether it's time or anything that I have, I don't get to sit down like I used to and play games. And when I'm constantly called back and I'm putting aside other things, like, the kid needs to eat food, or I could play Uncharted, and I choose Uncharted, that means that I'm really, really digging that game. And the story...
Also made some poor choices.
Well, hey, look, a bag of Doritos and a couple of Pepsi. I send him downstairs and he plays Minecraft for hours. Like, I don't even need to worry about him. It's the best babysitter. But no, Uncharted 4, I mean, the narrative is great. I loved the fact that they introduced Sam into the story. I love the way... I don't want to ruin it for anybody. I mean, I guess most people have probably already played it through. But I really enjoyed the way, our journey with Nathan Drake wrapped up. That spoke to me. I mean, for anybody who's ever kind of played those games, a lot of gamers could say they almost grew up playing these games, right? So it was just a really apropos finish to Nate Drake's story, and it's the one that kind of. God, I mean, looking at this list right now, I mean, The Last Guardian I really like too, but...
The first parties did pretty good this year.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, Forza Horizon 3 is fantastic too, but yeah, no, I got to stick with Uncharted 4. I liked it from the beginning right through to the end, and I loved how they chose to go with the narrative, so it's an easy choice for me.
To me, it came down to 3 games. It came down to Forza Horizon 3, it came down to Gears 4, and Uncharted 4, but I just feel, I'm with you, Uncharted 4 is just it's just on a whole new level. It's that top tier. You could argue that it's one of the best games of our generation, not just the year. I think it's also not the last we've seen of Nathan Drake. I know people think that this is it, this is over. They're
passing the torch.
They're passing the torch. Whatever. I think we will see him again. It might not be in the next 2-3 years, but he's going to come back. It's just way too successful of a franchise for Naughty Dog and Sony. So they get the nod. I mean, it's the only game we gave a perfect 100 score this year.
Really?
I'm 97% sure that it was the only game we gave a 100 for. I'm pretty sure on that. And look, the staff picked it. I mean, most of the staff picked Uncharted 4. I'm going with the staff. I'm going with you. Uncharted 4 gets my pick for King of First Party.
Rory.
Well, strong picks as usual, guys, and strong opinions to back it up. But
And we're wrong?
And you're totally wrong. So here's my thing. I get it. I appreciate why people love Uncharted 4. For me personally, it's not going to be the top pick in a category later, but Uncharted 4 for me this year was one of my biggest disappointments of the year. And I still give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a solid game, but it's not the best Uncharted game. It's not Neil's best work either. I don't think those guys had some of the sensibilities were missing that Amy Hennig brought to the set pieces for one, the fun of it and the charm and such. And the gameplay I found was a step back in a lot of ways compared to 2 and 3 as well. Removing the ability to throw back grenades, I spent probably half my time just holding the stick up, climbing a wall, or prolonged sliding sessions.
Yeah.
I thought the stealth was cool, but then it wasn't really, you could only really kind of do it in certain areas and such. And I thought the storytelling itself and presentation were all phenomenal. There was just other things that bugged me in there as well. But enough about Uncharted.
I digress.
My King of First Party is actually going to be Gears of War 4. And Uncharted was, it's in the running. Forza Horizon 3 as well is in there. But Gears 4 for me was just a total package across the board. I thought it was a really solid Gears game. But like Uncharted, arguably not the best. It's up there. When I reviewed it, initially I was like, it's the best. And I still think it's super strong. I might put number 3 above it. But as a package, as a whole, I think it's stellar. I think it looks great. I think it plays great. It sounds great, and tons of content with a fantastic horde mode, some good multiplayer. Gears 4 for me edged out Uncharted. Uncharted, I kind of just got bored with.
I don't think anybody would argue.
Yeah, I have
think
no
you
problem with that.
I think you actually made really good points too about how the loss of Amy Hennig really impacted Uncharted. And we actually wrote an article about it. We had one of our writers write an article about it and kind of point out what was missing from 4 that previous games held on to, and he got ripped apart. Like literally, if the internet could have reached through the screen and grabbed him, they would have ripped him a new asshole.
As
they were not happy with him at all, but I thought they were great points, and I mean obviously you thought the same. So I think Gears of War 4 is a pretty solid choice.
I think it's a good game.
No.
No.
I think Gears of War 4 is a good choice too. I mean, I think as is with anything, I mean, if it's nominated, there's usually a reason it's there. So we can all kind of look at all these games and go, but that one, I mean, sometimes we can pain ourselves over decisions that we're going to make.
Of course. One last thing. What I want to say that I thought was surprising.
You're already 2 minutes.
I know. I want one last point about Gears of War 4 that I thought didn't get enough talk from people, which is surprising.
The Run the Jewels DLC.
No, it's a compliment towards Gears, but also them mimicking a little bit was how much on Gears 4 was inspired and took stuff from Uncharted series as a whole, like their storytelling and the banter and such, and the set pieces themselves, right? There was numerous times throughout Gears 4 where I was like, this kind of feels like Uncharted a little bit. Like they've taken some of those great things of Uncharted and elevated the Gears for.
Well, I'm sure they all kind of watch what each other are doing. I mean, there's inspiration everywhere.
Sure.
Inspiration everywhere.
You have to learn from your peers.
Absolutely. Paul.
Well, I thought both of those games were good.
Oh, but we're wrong.
There it comes.
You're absolutely wrong, both of you. Both three of you.
Both 3 of us.
Yep.
You're only on your first beer, aren't you?
Woo!
We're only at the beginning of the evening.
Hey, party on.
Here comes Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
That's not on the list.
Not yet. No, I thought Uncharted 4 was good, but it was a game that I kind of struggled my way through. I think that type of game has just had its day, and it's on the way out. It was.
If I remember right, though, you were like a dog in heat for Lara and Tomb Raider last year.
Well, Rise of Tomb Raider is a better game.
It's much better than Uncharted 4.
It is a better game than Uncharted 4.
But that is a similar styling game. I'm going to let you go. Continue, please continue.
I want to get back into this Tomb Raider is better than Uncharted thing.
Yeah.
That's a whole other show.
That's a whole other show, yeah. I thought Uncharted 4 was good. I mean, the storytelling is top notch. The motion capture and the visuals and whatnot are great. Same with Gears 4. but it's just more Gears was kind
It
of
is
what
more
it
Gears.
boiled down to for me. So my king of first party this year, as Shawn scrolls through the list, what am I gonna pick? What am I gonna
I'm trying to
pick?
figure I'm trying to figure you
Spit
out.
it out.
It's Forza Horizon 3.
Good pick.
Yeah, good pick.
And the reason I think that is because this is Microsoft really, really sticking it to Sony on the driving games. Like, name a good Sony driving game since one of the earlier
one that's
GTs.
actually come out. 'Cause,
Exactly.
Well, to be fair, Drive Club is good. I would say. I don't think it's great, but I think it's like a nice distraction, an arcadey balance thing, and graphically, I mean, obviously, it's.
I think Drive Club got better with time, but when it released, it sucked.
Give it. I think on release day, I think it was like a solid 7.
Oh, I don't know. I
Like
would have been
0.7?
more
You
like
guys are terrible.
Yeah, but Forza Horizon 3, the environments are just gorgeous and lovingly rendered and detailed, and the driving feels so good with all the variety in terms of events and whatnot that you're going through while you're playing the game. I really just think Forza is the best first-party game of the year.
And the drop in, drop out with your friends. I haven't played
It's so
Forza
good.
this
It
year,
might be
so-
the best racing game ever made, unless you're looking and ranking them specifically on realism and you're looking for
Yeah.
simulation stuff, right? But if you're looking for fun and content, like Horizon is spectacular.
I think those are all pretty good choices. I don't think anybody would argue with those. All right, so our last award of this show before we cut her and we go to our next episode is the Come On Man.
Come on,
man.
Come on, man.
Which is the industry annoyances or possibly biggest disappointment of the year. Something that really pissed you off. And again, we did have our staff give us our nominees this year. And there's some things in here, looking through the list, that really pissed me off. Let's go through it. Microtransactions in everything. I believe we had that last year as a nominee. Early releases. Basically a game releasing when it's not ready.
That includes big day one patches, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like
which they all have.
Which
it
they
seems.
all seem to have. Digital only releases, remastering random games that nobody seems to care about, No Man's Sky as a disappointment, Recore, Mighty Number 9, the Nintendo Switch reveal. I guess one of our staff was underwhelmed by the Nintendo Switch.
It wasn't me, man. I'm a Nintendo fanboy.
Street Fighter 5, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutants in Manhattan. That game sucked. Anyway, Star Fox Zero. The fact that you can't actually find the NES Mini Classic anywhere. Modern Warfare Remastered paywall. The PS4 Pro being underwhelming for what you had to pay to get a new console.
But you had to pay?
Well, you could choose to purchase.
There you go. It's a luxury item.
I agree with you. But though, you know what? That's a pretty. Is this last one yours, Paul?
No. You can just forget about that.
That's
a joke.
I guess you don't even want to read it out loud.
Read it out
loud.
Yeah. So for anybody who went to E3, we have EA's non-E3 conference and subsequent Battlefield Weed Fest.
Okay.
So there's a story behind this. I believe you're probably the best suited to tell this one.
Yeah.
Well, it
yeah.
has something to do with Snoop Dogg and
Zac Efron.
Zac Efron.
And so Scott and I were at the EA thing, and we're wandering around afterwards, trying to play something. They didn't seem to want to let us do that. But a whole bunch of celebrities are playing Battlefield 1. Snoop Dogg and Terry Crews is there, and Jamie Foxx. I don't think he'd ever seen a PlayStation before in his life.
Was Terry Crews playing while bouncing his pecs?
I couldn't see
He
his
was only in
Like
like
an
a
Old
speedo.
Spice commercial, yelling and screaming the whole time.
I couldn't see his pecs, but his reticule was bouncing. But yeah, and Snoop Dogg standing there, and he's looking directly at a brick wall in the game, unmoving, with this huge joint sticking out of his mouth.
So he was seeing something.
Yeah, he was.
Here,
he
come
was
on,
having
man.
a good time.
It's really just like, come on, man. Why wasn't I there?
Come on, man.
Why aren't I staring at a brick wall right
yeah.
now?
Puff, puff, pass, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into it. Paul, I believe it's your turn to tell us first what your biggest industry annoyance or biggest disappointment was. Come on, man.
I mean, a lot of these games on this list were massive disappointments. Obviously, No Man's Sky is the most media prominent
Don't throw words around like that.
Yeah, it's been discussed a fair bit. It promised a lot, delivering not quite as much, and it was pretty repetitive, I thought, with a lot of super disposable interactions. You come to this planet and you mine around and you check out all these bases and stuff, and then you bail and you never see any of that stuff again. Like, why are you cataloging all this stuff if you're just gonna bail and that? But that's not really my come on man. My come on man has to do with that and Street Fighter V and Mighty Number 9, and that is busted ass games.
Yeah.
Just don't release it until it's done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. You know what?
Well, did you think Street Fighter was busted or just released without the content it should have had?
Complete lack of content.
Okay.
Complete lack of
I mean, you
content.
could fight online and the fighting was fine, but what else do you do?
You know what's
like
funny?
you couldn't even have, there wasn't even training mode when the
You
game
could go
released.
both ways on that because you got to look at. I mean, our reviewer loved it because it's a technically sound
Mechanically, yeah.
fighter,
Sure.
but where's the game? Where is the game?
It depends on who
And
looks at
coming
it,
out in
right?
pieces.
If you're just like strictly like a competitive fighter, and I think that's who it launched for initially, with just those guys that just want to jump online and like fight each other and get competitive.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
love Street Fighter, but I play mostly story mode, unlocking characters, and then I play when friends come over, kind of thing. I don't care about the competitive. I want to play all the other stuff, and training mode is a big part of it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
Busted
a-
ass games.
Busted ass games.
Don't do that no more.
Trevor.
Oh, me.
Surprise! You
This
need
is
to top two.
yeah, that's right. This is a good list. There's a ton of things on here that are just annoying, like microtransactions, annoying. Day one patches, annoying. Terrible remastered games, annoying. But the single most annoying thing for me is the NES Classic. I mean, talk about an overhyped, completely avoidable situation on Nintendo's part. First of all, they created this secondary market because you can't find this thing anywhere, which is not that good to begin with. It comes with 30 games. You can't add any more. The controller is a 3-foot cord.
Is it really only 3 feet
It's
long?
3-foot cord. Am I going to drag my overweight 40-year-old ass in front of a TV 3 feet away and play with this silly thing that, I mean, I just find that the whole situation was completely overhyped, completely avoidable, and Nintendo should have been on top of this. And
I think
it gets my come on, man.
I think they are on top of it, and I think it's very much on purpose.
Oh, it is. Oh,
You look at the supply and demand for Amiibo.
Look, no, not Amiibo. Every Nintendo
Anything
product,
Nintendo.
they purposely limit stocks. It creates this like
It creates
demand,
hype and demand.
and that's it. Like
Yeah.
it's that they could feel the buzz building up to the release of that, and people were excited for the nostalgia value as well, right? And I think it's mostly them selling it to us. Who have kids too. Where it's like this is
I want to share those games with my kids for sure, but I'm also always telling my kid not to sit too close to the TV, so that 3-foot cord's not going to work for me.
I love Nintendo, but they have a history of
Yeah.
shorting supplies of all their products.
Wait till next year, right? All right, Rory, your choice.
What's category is this again? Come on, man. Okay, so
Pay attention. Come on, man.
Speaking of Nintendo, I think there's a lot of great things on the list, as you guys have pointed out. Some of them don't register for me, though, like microtransactions and such. I'll often play a game, and sometimes I've even like reviewed games, and somebody will, in the comments will be like, "No mention of the microtransactions." Like, I didn't even notice them. Clearly, like if a game has microtransactions, that's fine, as long as it isn't pay to win or forcing me to do stuff.
Exactly.
Most of them are just allowing me to get stuff that I could get through the game quicker. So it's like
cosmetic stuff.
exactly. For me, biggest disappointments and the Come On Mans are definitely geared towards games that didn't deliver or they fucked up on in some way or another. And for me personally, we're just talking about Nintendo. It's going to be Star Fox. I had wanted for years for Nintendo to bring back franchises like Metroid and Star Fox and things like that. And I had this vision in my head of what a new Star Fox would look like. Retro-inspired visuals, but still gorgeous looking, like the art style and such. And they almost delivered on that. I was like, Platinum Games, hit or miss, but when they hit, they nail it action-wise. Cool choice of developer. Saw the screenshots. I'm like, it looks like Star Fox 64. I'm like, I'm into this. It's on rails. Okay, nostalgia. Cool. I'm all into this. Oh, I have to play with the wonky motion controls. There's no option just to play with the default controller. And that just destroyed all these years of excitement for it. Winning my predictions of Nintendo announcing new Star Fox this past, year or whatever it was, 2 years ago now, and getting that hype built up, and then playing it at E3 before it came out and being like, can I change these? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you guys have just killed everything.
Did you say that to them? Like,
I did.
You guys really fucked this up.
Of course I did. I didn't use those words, but I said, well, in my preview, I am going to have to talk about how I hate the setup, and I think it's annoying and a mistake.
Yeah.
And I did, because it was. You know,
They
some
did
people
not
got used
take
to
your
it.
advice.
They did not, and that's the thing, though. I
But
don't
there
think.
was overall, though, I mean, I think a lot of fans expressed their distaste and their disappointment.
Yeah, they should have just
for the
patched in, you know, let us have an option to use the regular controller. The problem was you could get used to it, and a lot of people said, "Oh, after a while, by the end, I was
You
used to
shouldn't
it."
have to say after a while.
For any game,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
agree.
you can get used to it, and yeah, okay, you ended up enjoying the experience overall, but it shouldn't take you 5 or 6 hours to get a grasp of what you're doing and having to mismanage. I wanted to look at the TV and shoot shit.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Anyway, Star Fox.
I'm gonna actually side with Paul on this one, and Busted Ass Games just coming out before they're ready. I have no problem with early access when there's that's the intent. You know, they're saying, hey, let's put this game out there and let's get feedback from the community because they're the ones who matter. And they incorporate that feedback into that final release. So the people who maybe who invest early or whatnot, they feel like they're getting their voices heard, and then the people who want to wait realize that real gamers got their hands on that product and played it, right? I mean, and that's for the betterment of the game in the long run, right? I don't have a problem with that, but there's too many games coming out that, I mean, and you know, it's the easy way, like you said too. I mean, this year it's the easy thing to shit all over No Man's Sky, you know, but it wasn't the only game that did it. It's almost become a bad habit in this industry to put out a game knowing that, oh, well, we'll get it out there, and if they find anything that's just not right, we'll just issue a day one patch. Yeah. For me, that's not necessarily an issue. I've got, like, you know, blazing fast internet and all this, you know, I got all these perks, but you've got a lot of people who don't have access like that, who can't just download a 6 gig patch on day one. Who they throw in a game. Look, think about it though, right? They go to the store, you know, some kid spends his allowance money, they go to the store, they come home, they pop it in. They're like, oh, you're going to need this 8 gig thing. He's like, oh, I guess I can play it in 2 fucking days.
Yeah. But forget about 6 or 8 gigs. A lot of games have like 40 gig patches.
Right.
Days. That's the entire.
That's a game. That's not a patch. That's a fucking game.
Well, that's the whole
disc
thing.
is actually empty. Ha ha.
That's one of my biggest annoyances of this generation so far. It's just that initial, when you brought home those consoles and you were like, I got all these games, I'm going to pop them in and play a little bit of them to see what they're like on launch day. And you're like, I have to install everything.
I think there's a difference though between a busted game and a day one patch.
Yeah.
And a day one patch where they go, look, the game is done, the game is ready, we're going gold, let's start making those discs. They're firing those things up. But you've got a passionate, like, you know, you've got a passionate team that until the very end is maybe looking to add just a little bit more, a little bit extra. Those types of patches, I don't mind. But when it comes to the functionality of the game, right? Where like you just can't play it unless you download this patch. That's bullshit.
I get that. If there's an overpowered weapon, like fix it. If there's a
nerf
certain
it
glitch
or whatever
in the
else.
corner of a level, that needs to be fixed. But yeah, you're right. It's these massive patches.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
To be fair, No Man's Sky is the prime example of that because the game that was on the disc is not the game.
It is
that
even
was
now.
After the first patch.
Yeah.
I mean, people who played it before it actually released, it's not the same game.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, there you go. That wraps up episode 1.
Thank God, because I got a piece
that's the problem when you have. That's the problem when you're drinking wobbly pops while doing award ceremonies. So make sure you tune in. What's our release schedule? We're just gonna bang these sons of bitches out, aren't we?
By the time Shawn is saying this right now, he should be able to say, check out
You should be able to
right
click
here.
part 2.
Right
Perfect.
here. It's right here
So
on
there you
the
go.
screen right now.
So tune in for the next episode. We're gonna have 4 more awards that we're gonna jump into for our next episode. And let's give them a bit of a preview. We've got The Melodious, our best music, The Storyteller, best story or writing, The Nolan Northie. And if you know video games, you already know what that one's about.
And already know who's going to win.
Best performance or character, and The Saving Grace, which is the best surprise. I like that award.
Yep.
So tune in to episode 2 probably right now. We'll see you then.
Peace out.